Turkish police kills 2 Kurdish civilians in North Kurdistan. Kurdish people protested demolition of PKK guerrilla cemetery in Yüksekova Hakkari on Friday, 6th of December. After the end of demonstration, protesters would like to read their press statement in the street. But Turkish police forces, without any warning, directly attacked the protesters with tear gas bombs, water cannons and rubber and real ammunition. Police forces used real ammunition and water cannons and tear gas at the pre-funeral demonstration, which organised by the Association Mesopotamia Assistance and Solidarity Families who lost relatives, with the support of the main Kurdish party BDP and human rights organisations. Two Kurdish people killed after Turkish police attacked with the real ammunitions. All 2 protesters who were killed by police gunfire are from same family, an uncle and his nephew. Autopsy report confirmed that all 2 protesters killed by real bullets. According to autopsy report, Mehmet Reşit İşbilir killed by 6 bullets and other victim Veysel İşbilir killed by 2 bullets. After that day, thousands of people come together in the street of Yüksekova to protest against killing of 2 Kurdish people. Shops in the city were closed. Owners of the shops joined the demonstration. Turkish police forces once again violently attacked the demonstrators who were just to protest execution of 2 Kurdish people. After the funeral demonstrations, Mehmet Reşit İşbilir, Veysel İşbilir was buried with the massive participation of the people. Turkish government used more and more repression to the protesters who had just expressed their demands on the streets. Kurdish leader Abdullah Öcalan and General President of KJK has expressed their condolences to the family who lost their family member. And they said our people should be cautious against any provocations. The European United Left Nordic Green Left European Parliamentary Group hosts the 10th conference on 4th and 5th of December at the European Parliament, with the title of EU, Turkey, the Kurds and the İmralı Peace Process. A number of Kurdish, European and Turkish political figures, civil society activists, journalists, academic and politicians from across Turkey, Europe, America, Middle East have participated to the conference. The conference provided rich discussions regarding Kurdish question in Turkey. The peace process, which was initiated by Kurdish leader Abdullah Öcalan, was supported by all the participants. The conference notes that the current peace process is hurtling towards an impasse. The conference hoped that this impasse is overcome soon and that the peace process will be retelevised, recognizing that the peace is a necessary condition for negotiating and for the deepening of democracy for the peoples of Turkey. Member of the Executive Board of Kurdistan National Congress, Zübeyir Aydar, spoke at the conference and said, "A year ago, when the 9th conference commenced right here, there was at that time no conditions for any sort of dialogue. On that day in my speech, I stated that if there is an opportunity for negotiating, the Kurds will respond in a positive light. This is what happened. 22 days after the 9th conference, Turkish Prime Minister Mr. Tayyip Erdogan publicly confirmed that he had been meeting with Mr. Abdullah Öcalan. The draft resolution of the 10th International Conference on EU, Turkey and the Kurds was announced. Here are some of them. The government should introduce legislation that ensure a legal platform and conditions for Mr. Öcalan to create and freely lead his negotiating team, and those negotiations must result in a legal and constitutional amendments. On the government of Turkey to introduce such enabling legislation, steps as a matter to develop into a stronger democracy." The 2013 EU report states that formal introduction of an announced agreement to legalize the provision of public services in languages other than Turkish, notably Kurdish, as recommended by the Council of Europe's Congress of Local and Regional Authorities. The existence, identity and culture of the Kurdish people, the right to self-rule and the right to an education in Kurdish at all levels must be constitutionally guaranteed. Similar to many other global experiences, a third party will at some point need to be introduced to the process of dialogue. To make an effort in following and observing the peace process, Turkey. To remove the PKK from the list of terrorist organizations, as the PKK is one of the sides of the peace process and a force for the democratization of Turkey. Support the Rojava struggle and search for unified administration between the Kurdish people and other peoples of region. We respect the principle of people's right to self-determination and condemn any action that abuses this right. Support the official invitation of the Kurds of Rojava to Geneva too, as the exclusion of the Kurdish people from this conference will ensure the failure of all efforts for solution. The Turkish state has ceased support to Salafists and prevents armed militias who are continually attacking the people of Rojava from using Turkey as a logistical safe haven. The Turkish state with immediate effect to stop the building of a wall across the border between Turkey and Syria. Noam Chomsky sent a video message to the conference. Here is the full video message from Noam Chomsky.
The current Ankara-PK negotiations are taking place at a critical moment of contemporary Kurdish history. The borders imposed by the imperial powers are beginning to erode. That's a development that provides new opportunities for Kurds, also considerable threats. Iraqi Kurdistan has achieved a substantial degree of autonomy. One byproduct of Syria's hideous plunge to suicide is that the Kurdish regions have partially broken free, enough so that the Kurdish PYD just a week ago declared autonomy. Of course, has close links to the PKK and Öcalan. This took place after a series of military victories against jihadi forces in the region. The PYD is likely to seek to establish closer relations with Iraqi Kurdistan, a matter which won't be easy. Leaders of Iraqi Kurdistan, notably President Masoud Barzani, have joined Turkey in expressing a considerable concern and opposition to the Syrian militias. Appears that a Barzani-Öcalan conflict is in process over loyalty of the Kurds of the region. Just 2 days ago, President Barzani of Iraqi Kurdistan made a historic visit to Turkey, actually to meet Prime Minister Erdogan. Undoubtedly, steps are being taken towards establishing closer relations between Iraqi Kurdistan and Turkey. Crucially includes the 2 pipelines soon expected to be operating, supplying oil and natural gas from Iraqi Kurdistan to Turkey. The whole region is in flux. There are many uncertainties ahead. There are many uncertainties within Turkey as well. The repression of recent years continues, regrettably. That's reversing encouraging progress in the early years of the millennium. Turkey remains, for example, the global leader in imprisonment of reporters. Kurdish rights have improved but are very fragile, and there's no clear indication, at least that I'm aware of, indication of progress in the negotiations with Öcalan. In general, it seems to me a time for caution, both cautious hope, but also care in navigating a minefield of conflicting goals and interests. There are opportunities to proceed to address the festering sore of bitter repression of the Kurds and denial of their basic rights for many painful years. There are many obstacles to confront, some internal to Kurdish society, some involving regional and indeed broader international actors. In brief, it's a period of challenges and opportunities, period of dangers and prospects.
During the conference, we interviewed some participation of the conference. We firstly interviewed PYD co-chair Salih Muslim and asked him about the recent development about Geneva II, which will be held in Geneva on 22nd of January 2013.
In Geneva we had some meetings, as you know, everybody was there, and even Mr. Bogdanov representing Russia, as you know, and all of them, I mean all the parties, and even Lakhdar al-Brahimi was there, so they were meeting with all the people, I think, all the opposition, maybe trying to know what they want. So we met him also, and the coalition was there also, individuals. There is nothing stable now. We don't know how they are going to form these delegations for the opposition and even for the government. So you can consider it just reviewing what's going on. And as you know, they could fix the date for the beginning of Geneva, which was in 22nd of January. So that's all. There is nothing clear yet. Our YPG forces are defending the area, and still there are some fights in some places. Maybe there are some villages, still some villages and some places to be liberated. And there are attacks in Afrin area, and also they have surrounded Afrin area and embargo. I mean those Salafist forces embargo in two areas, in Kobani and in Afrin. They don't allow even the food to go in. They're trying maybe to just make pressure on the people. So this is it's not attacking. I mean, they are not attacking because, as you know, they had very hard clashes with the YPG forces before, and so they are keeping. They are not trying to fight, keeping out, just closing the roads and keeping the roads for the food not to come in, and trying to make some embargoes.
Because the PKK agreed to a ceasefire.
We had an interview with Mr. David L. Phillips, who is from Columbia University Institute for the Study of Human Rights. David Phillips answered our questions about conference and peace process in Turkey.
So this is a good conference because there is progress. There's now a ceasefire, and there are opportunities for negotiations. But I'm deeply disappointed in Prime Minister Erdogan's response to the ceasefire. He's treated it as a goal in and of itself, instead of entering into serious negotiations about the root causes of conflict. There's really no discussion about constitutional reform, about legal reform, about demobilization and disarmament of the PKK and transforming it into a gendarmerie or a public security force. These are all important issues that have to be addressed if there's going to be sustainable peace. There is no peace process in Turkey. There is peace because the PKK agreed to a ceasefire and a withdrawal of its forces, but there's no process. The only process has been unilateral actions by Prime Minister Erdogan to announce a democracy package on September 30th. These measures were discussed previously. They're too little and too late. There's no negotiation. There's no environment where the stakeholders are dealing with each other through mutual respect. Until there are serious talks underway, it's premature to say there is a peace process. Peace is a big step. It creates conditions for a process, but right now there really is no political dialogue of any meaning.
Mr. Phillips also talked about engaging of USA in process, and he pointed out that Mr. Öcalan's position must be legitimizing with a cooperating international action.
The United States is actively engaged through its very capable ambassador in Ankara, through its team at the State Department, which is knowledgeable about Turkey, but there is more that the U.S. can do. If the Turkish government is speaking to Abdullah Öcalan, that legitimizes his role and legitimizes the PKK, and there should be a coordinated international action that starts with Erdogan changing his hostile rhetoric towards the PKK, and then the US, the EU, and European countries delisting the PKK from its list of foreign terrorist organizations.
He answered and commented our questions about Rojava and Syria.
If you don't participate in the dialogue, you don't have a voice, and your interests aren't heard. The problem in Syria with governance is the over-centralization of power in Damascus. Now is the time to start talking about a new constitutional arrangement that decentralizes power through federal or autonomy arrangements, so that minority groups like the Kurds can control their own affairs in the fields of governance and economy and culture. That's the only way that groups in Syria are going to be able to coexist in the future. The ongoing slaughter of civilians in Syria represents a collective failure of the UN Security Council. For sure, Russia and China are the primary culprits for vetoing 3 resolutions that would have increased pressure on Assad. But all Security Council members are responsible to implement the responsibility to protect and to work towards a political solution to the conflict. There are now plans underway for Geneva II, but fundamentally there can't be sustainable peace in Syria as long as Assad stays in power and his inner circle in Damascus is intact.
Emma Sinclair Webb, senior researcher on Human Rights Watch. She commented about the conference and talked about human rights violations in Turkey and North Kurdistan.
It's very, very useful to be able to get together and talk over these problems. Dialogue is, of course, the key to any kind of peace process, whichever country in the world we're talking about. I mean, not just in relation to Turkey. Dialogue is the essence of attempts to make a peace process. I'm here today basically to talk about human rights problems in Turkey, the continuing human rights problems which affect all of the citizens of Turkey and above all Kurds. And so that's been my contribution.
And share her ideas about current situations in Turkey and peace process.
This year we've obviously had, alongside the very important process that began earlier the year with the government, the talks starting between the government and Abdullah Öcalan. That was a very important process that began, and we certainly welcomed it from the point of view of the possibility of furthering rights for all citizens in Turkey, Kurds, but also all citizens, I think, more generally. So we thought the peace process, we've said, been on record as saying it's very important for furthering human rights.
She remarked the importance of tie-up between Gezi and Kurdish democratic resistance. And she commented over anti-terror law, KJK cases, free expression of ideas in Turkey and more.
Gezi really showed up how people actually expect more, and they expect a different kind of democracy, a deepening of democracy in Turkey. And these same aims that the Gezi protesters had, in a sense, I think, tie up with what the Kurds also want, which is a more democratic society in which they're fully recognized, in which their cultural rights are recognized, and all the obstacles to political representation are also solved. Because in Turkey you still have this high election threshold which prevents minority parties going into parliament. That's been a fundamental way of restricting political representation. And you have also a long history of unfair trials, very harsh prosecutions under the anti-terror law, which always adversely affects Kurds. And at the moment you've still got the KCK prosecutions going on, hundreds of people, hundreds in prison, thousands on trial, and they're tried not for violent activities, but rather for attempting to have political association. So I'm in favor, especially this year with the peace process, this year after the Gezi protests, of the European Union engaging more in Turkey to try to influence a reform agenda in Turkey.
A former Turkish police informant accused of instigating the 2007 murder of ethnic Armenian journalist Hrant Dink claimed in court Tuesday that he had warned police of the plot, but they failed to act. Erhan Tuncel is being retried in an Istanbul court over the high-profile killing in Turkey's largest city after initially being acquitted of all charges in 2012. Tuncel testified that he had informed the former head of police intelligence, Ramazan Akürek, of the plan to kill Denk, but that his warnings went unheeded on 3rd of December. The case was adjourned until 7th of January. Hrant Dink was gunned down in broad daylight by a teenage Turkish fascist outside the offices of his bilingual weekly newspaper, Agos, in January 2007 in a killing that shocked the country. Dink, Turkey's most prominent ethnic Armenian journalist and a leading member of the tiny community, had incurred the wrath of Turkish nationalists for calling the World War I massacre of Armenians a genocide.